The FBI has official documents that blatantly talk about interdimensional aliens, and everyone's cool with that. Dating back to July 8th, 1947, the exact same date as the first ever mainstream UFO crash in Roswell, New Mexico. This is on their official government site. Like, this document actually exists. It's real. And it kinda already told us what all these drones, UAPs, and orbs in our skies really are almost 80 years ago. I'm warning you, this is about to get wild, because a lot of what's written here has been happening right in front of us. The document is several pages long, but this page right here is by far the most interesting. It's a memorandum addressed to scientists and military authorities, written by someone who has several degrees and is a former university department head. Definitely doesn't sound like your local nut job. It goes on to describe the flying saucers, as UFOs were commonly referred to back then, starting off by saying that any plane that attacks these saucers will almost certainly be destroyed, and warning that doing so may cause panic among the public, so keep it low-key. The document continues to explain these crafts in detail, and this is where it gets weird. According to this, some of the UFOs carry crews, like living beings flying them from the inside, and others are fully remote controlled. I feel like we kinda already knew that. Then it gives us a bit of hope, saying that whatever they are, their mission is peaceful and are just looking to settle on our planet. Not the worst news, right? These visitors are human-like, yet much larger than us, and are not from Earth, but from their own world, clearly. But they don't come from another planet as we would expect, but rather an etheric realm, which interpenetrates our own and is not perceptible to us. Put simply, interdimensional beings. That's literally what it's saying. And their bodies and crafts automatically materialize into existence when they enter our dimension. Their crafts also possess a radiant energy that will easily disintegrate any attacking ship, and can also disappear from our dimension at any time without a trace. But the realm from which they come from is not the so-called astral plane, which is where a person's spirit is commonly thought to go to after passing away, but rather corresponds to the locus and talas, which are Hindu mystic terms that refer to 14 worlds that exist in dimensions above and below our own. Yeah, I told you shit was gonna get weird. And finally, they can't be contacted by radio, but likely can be by radar if we build some sort of signal systems designed for that purpose. Well, now, isn't that something? To be fair, many are quick to point out that this document wasn't actually written by the FBI, but rather was a newsletter written by Dr. Newton Mead Lane to the FBI, which they just stored in their archives. And obviously, if you Google it, it'll just tell you it's a bunch of pseudoscience and nonsense. You know the drill. Regardless, it's still an interesting report for the feds to keep in their official public document vault. And as wacky as the ideas presented here are, it kind of sounds similar to what's happening in our skies today, written in 1947. And this isn't the first time the FBI's public vault was under scrutiny. Back in 2011, another UFO memo from 1950 featured in their online archive was making its own rounds. This document mentions 3 circular saucers 50 feet in diameter with raised centers that were recovered in New Mexico. Each saucer was occupied by 3 bodies of human shape, but only 3 feet tall and wearing metallic clothes. Non-human biologics, anyone? Which admittedly contradicts the other document which said they're bigger than us, but maybe they come in different sizes, who knows. But again, this report was dismissed as hearsay from a third party with no proof, and no further evaluation was performed. Even though the report was written by Guy Hoddle, a special agent of the FBI, reporting an account given by an investigator of the US Air Force. 2 top-ranking government officials with no reason to lie, reporting on UFOs with non-human bodies found on board, swept under the rug as usual. Info about UFOs and unexplainable technology like this has been slowly trickling out over the decades and has definitely ramped up quite a bit in the last couple of years. What used to be crackpot theories are now basically government confirmed, which I don't even know if the government confirming it should make us less or more skeptical about it. So just remember these totally fake and for entertainment purposes only FBI documents in the coming months, and see if any of these get added to the told you so checklist.
It's the mothership they warned us about. This video is massively creepy for 2 reasons. It's not just a normal UFO video. The first reason, it could only be picked up on an infrared camera, meaning this could be all around us right now and we could not see it. And 2, it's mad creepy because this UFO, whatever it is shooting out a whole bunch of other smaller ones right out of under it. Be right back.
Wow, what the f is that thing? Wow.
Back to that thing in a minute. Did y'all see this 1999 interview of an employee of Area 51 saying that we will not be able to know about these things until 2025? The more of this video you listen to, the crazier it'll get.
Tell me what's happening out there. And he said, well, there's a lot of things that are going on there that I won't be able to tell you until the year 2025. But we have things in the Nevada desert that would make George Lucas envious.
I'm sorry, what year is it right now? And all the pieces are coming together perfectly for what they call aliens. Now hear me out on this. Do you guys remember like last year when the Pentagon came out and they said that there was a mothership in our solar system? And do y'all also remember when they said that there were fleets of these things heading to us a few months ago and people did not even believe them? They said they're full of crap and nothing would happen? Yeah, well those crazy people were right. And the craziest part of this whole thing is what Stephen Greer said that he's going to release in a few days. And talking about protecting people that come forward.
The information they're going to give me as they come forward, I'm going to hand off to every celebrity and every media outlet and every influencer I know. It's got to be seen by several billion people within a few days. The reason for it is that this summer he came to my place in Washington. And he says, we don't want to risk our lives and our families' lives. And
what is he getting ready to drop by the end of January? And further, where are they going to say that these things are coming from? I encourage everyone to look very deep into who this guy really is. I'm telling you guys, this year is going to be like no year that we have ever even seen before. Oh, before I forget, y'all are going to need to know this. There is power in the name of Jesus. Just remember that. Why? You'll see.
I think I just discovered a massive money laundering scheme in California, and it has to do with this: homelessness. Some of you may have seen this headline: $24 billion gone missing. Gavin Newsom, no idea where it is, and this money was supposed to have gone to tackling homelessness. Well, I think I may have just discovered what happened to some of that missing money. Okay, so this is San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria. He's been on quite the rampage in the last couple years, making all kinds of public housing deals. Except when you look into it, none of these projects make any sense. For example, $145 million for 407 units. Here's another one, $150 million, 270 units. This is absolutely bonkers. How is this going to solve anything? I mean, you walk around East Village in San Diego and it looks like a freaking dump. But that's not even the whole thing. It gets even weirder. In all of these public housing projects, there's one investment group that pops up over and over again, which is the Chelsea Development Corporation. Chelsea Development Corporation. Chelsea Investment Corporation. So I go to their website and they say, Chelsea Investment Corporation is focused on creating and preserving high-quality, affordable rental homes. We take special pride in our ability to structure creative financing solutions that result in the development of award-winning housing that complements the surrounding neighborhood. And then I dig a little bit deeper and we find out that the Chelsea Investment Group is an investment fund that is based in the Cayman Islands. These are definitely the guys that you want to get involved with. But their HQ is in California, 6339 Paseo del Lago, Carlsbad, California, 92011. Now it gets even sketchier. 6339 Paseo del Lago in Carlsbad is owned by this company called 13th and Broadway CICLP. 13th and Broadway CICLP is basically a shell company that's been formed by the Chelsea Investment Corporation. Okay, let's go back to this property report. Okay, so if you go back to the transaction history, you'll see that in October 2016, this headquarters, this building was sold for $3 million, $3.15 million. But in November of 2023, it's now worth $68.7 million. How does this make any sense? 2016, it was worth $3 million. Now it's worth $68 million. Then you look at the lender. It is the Housing Authority of San Diego. San Diego Housing Authority is not a bank, but it's certainly acting as a bank right now. $68.7 million to some investment group based in the Cayman Islands. Tell me this doesn't look like money laundering. I don't know. There's definitely some smoke here. None of this makes any sense. There's definitely, allegedly, I think these two are up to something shady. That's all I can say. Allegedly.
Yeah, we were just talking about the wildfire situation and how crazy it is that they spent $24 billion last year on the homeless.
Yeah.
And What do they spend on preventing these wildfires?
Zero.
Not zip.
Zip. And in 2019, I think Newsom said, I'm going to take care of the forests and maintain the forests and do all that kind of stuff. He didn't do anything.
Didn't do anything. And then on top of that, they cut the water off.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's all funny. And then I think all our tax dollars probably went for Gavin's hair gel. I don't know, but it's like, it's sad. It's like the place is just on fire.
Well, the whole state is just so poorly managed. It's so frustrating and confusing. And then he gets on TV and pretends like everything's great. Mm-hmm. And California's the best. We have the best state. We have the most amazing economy. And you're out of your fucking mind, dude. You've ruined this state. Personally ruined it.
Well, it's the same team that was up in San Francisco, and they came down to L.A., and they're doing what they did in San Francisco. And San Francisco's kind of like apocalyptic now,
Yeah.
I went there, and it's just like people, homeless. It's a mess.
It's just unbelievable that society can crumble that quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It really is unbelievable.
It doesn't take long.
No.
Yeah. I read a book once by Jared Diamond called Collapse. Mm-hmm. Have you ever read that book?
Yeah.
Crazy, right? It says all the things you need for a civilization to cave in and collapse. And a lot of the things are present. All those earmarks, the precursors of a collapse, they're present in our time. So it's an interesting observation.
Yeah.
And we're no smarter than our grandparents, I don't think.
Well, that brings me to one of my favorite movies of yours, is Apocalypto.
Oh, yeah.
When the Mayans were running things, who could have ever thought when they had such an incredibly sophisticated society, unbelievable construction, the stuff that they had built, that one day you just walk through there and there's nothing. Nothing and nobody.
In fact, there's something, because it's interesting. Somebody was flying by what they thought was a volcano in the 30s, some buzzboy. And he thought, hey, somebody built that. Wait a minute, there's 4 by 8 foot bricks. That's man-made. And it is literally the biggest pyramid in the world. It's bigger than the ones in Egypt, and it's in Guatemala.
Yeah, we talked about that the other day. Yeah, it's a recent discovery, right?
Well, not that recent.
The news just keeps on coming. We're 6 days in. We're 6 days into January, and it's coming thick and fast. So Ryan Graves, who, as we know, testified in front of Congress with David Grush and Commander Fravor 2 years ago now, has come out with some very interesting information about an incident that took place on the 11th of December. Here is what he has said on X. A whistleblower came to ASA, that's Americans for Safe Aerospace, which is the organization that he runs, regarding a mid-air collision between a Gulfstream jet and an unidentified metallic object that occurred off the coast of Florida on December 11th at approximately 27,000 feet and resulted in engine failure and an emergency landing. There are indications that the unidentified object may have been a drone operating off the East Coast with atypical characteristics. The whistleblower is concerned because this altitude is highly regulated in Class A airspace, or Class Alpha, that requires flight plans and transponders. But in this instance, there were no flight plans for the object, and the object was not transponding. We can largely eliminate the possibility of common objects because a weather balloon would have been transponding. This altitude is too high for hobby drones and illegal for any drone. There is no biological indicator of a bird strike. Video of the engine shows metal damage. I am concerned the incident is being downplayed by the FAA. The report is being classified, it as an incident and not an accident, which would require public announcement. Very clever, FAA, very clever and cheeky. Investigation by NTSB and an explanation. What is going on here? And it's got all of the data here that he's copy and pasted. The reg of the aircraft is November 553 Romeo Bravo. And that is a Gulfstream. I don't know what type it is. I'm not sure if it's a Gulfstream 4 or 5. It looks like a Gulfstream 5, but I could be wrong. But yeah, very interesting information here. It's got all the data that he's posted with it so that we can see it. So yeah, there you go. There you have it. Metallic orbs at 27,000 feet. And FAA trying to cover it up by finding loopholes, legal loopholes, that allow them to avoid telling or announcing to the public that this has happened. You heard it first from DK. Let's see what else happens.
Have you all seen this? CIA document claims life existed on Mars and it was a population of very large people who built the pyramids. But this gets so much crazier. At the same time, allegedly we have this place releasing moon footage of alien base. So for a quick moment we can pretend the moon is not a plasma. Now back to the Daily Mail with things existing on Mars. By the way, do y'all understand the timing? So this CIA document is from 40 years ago. But check this part out. The report of Mars exploration, May 22, 1984, details how the agency used astral projection. The idea that a person's spirit can travel through the astral plane. This astral projection was also used in the world's second biggest global conflict. But back to this whole scenario. This whole study was part of Project Stargate, a secret US Army unit established in 1977, focused on anomalous phenomena including remote viewing, telepathy, and psycho whatever the word. Don't forget the timing. What's going on right now in the sky? Finally, in the book by Werner von Braun, Project Mars, he talked about the Elon leading them to Mars.
So back in the 80s, the CIA did some really weird shit. That's most of the basis of my channel, but this one they sent a psychic to remote view Mars. Now, they gave this guy really specific areas of Mars to remote view with the specific time frame of 1 million years ago, and they move him around from different coordinates to different coordinates. You're going to see that all over these files as I read you through it. Now, they start him off right away with that first section, and then he sees pyramids. Now he's seeing very tall figures. They're wearing funny clothes. You know, they're really big. They're really, really big. So they move him in the same time period to a different part of Mars. He's in a cavern. It's got these giant rooms. You know, he said, I feel like I'm a very small in a huge room, and he doesn't really know where he is. They never told him, so he's just going off of his mind. Now, they keep moving him around over and over, and now he's seeing obelisks. It kind of looks like the Washington Monument, and he's saying the geologics of the place, you know, the mountains and everything, they're kind of rounded off, but they look like they want to be square, and he's saying in this that he doesn't even know if he's making sense. He's just saying what he sees. But he says everything looks to be connected, like it wants to be flush, but something has happened to it. So they ask him to look more at these weird objects that are reflecting the light and look like they want to be connected. And he's saying the sun is just weird. He can't really put his words together. He's struggling really bad. So they kind of try to ground him a little bit and give him new coordinates. And he goes on to start talking about strange intersecting roads deep in the canyons. And remember, this is supposedly Mars 1 million years ago. If this guy was just lying out his ass, he would be saying, I'm seeing a house that's red with, you know, certain archways and stuff, because that's what they traditionally remote viewed. I've never read a remote viewing session that was anything not on Earth or anything that wasn't really important. I mean, it's always something boring. This is weird, and it's weird that this guy was so spot on with at least the subject matter being different than normal. Now, like I said, this guy was having a really hard time with this, so they kept stopping him and starting him, just doing anything they can to keep his focus on what's important. Now, he sees pyramids after they move him again, but he says they're massive pyramids. They look to be all connected. He said it was a really interesting perception, and the guy right here is saying in his notes, you know, he lost his perception and ability to move. He's attracted to these pyramids, so let's look into the pyramids more. So they start asking him more questions. He says they're some kind of storm shelters. They're made for sleeping. You know, hibernating, sleeping out a storm. They look like if you're there, you're going to be there for a really long time. Now, this guy sees a being in one of these pyramids. He says it's wearing weird clothes. They're cut to fit, so very skin tight. It's not flowy like a dress or like baggy clothes like this jacket I'm wearing. And he's pretty confused about it, but he says they're ancient people, they're dying, you know. Where he is now past their time and age, and he's looking into the past. He said that's very clear at this point, that he's not looking, you know, into the present or the future. This happened a long time ago. Now, it's kind of weird to read about all this. I don't really know how to feel, but we'll keep going. Now, he says he can't tell if this being knows if he's there or not. It can obviously see him just like he can see it, but he thinks that the being thinks it's hallucinating him. He said it's like they're dying people. They're waiting for something. He doesn't know what they're waiting for, and then he starts to kind of get more info, and he's talking about it's like they're waiting for their own kind to return. Their planet got destroyed, and they're sitting there waiting for, you know, their pioneers to come back with a new planet in a way. He doesn't really know. And then they start asking, you know, what happened to the planet? What's it like? And he says, and I quote, I see a picture of like, oh, hell, it's almost like a warp in, oh, God, this is difficult. It's like going, let's see. And then he says something about a globe, you know, the tail of a comet. None of it made any sense. This guy was very frazzled, you can tell. Now, the guy running this remote viewing session is very intrigued because they'd never done something like this before, and this guy's results were kind of mirroring, you know, maybe Mars 1 million years ago. So he says, ask the beings if you can help them. And he says that all he heard back was that the beings just have to sit there and wait. The being does not know who he is, and he thinks, again, the being is perceiving him as some kind of hallucination. The being might think it's losing its mind. Now, I'm going to just read the rest of this verbatim because it's really interesting, but he says, okay, the others left, where are they going? You know, how did they get there? And he sees impressions of a boat, rounded walls, shiny metals, could be a flying saucer. I don't really know. And he says, go on their journey with them and see where they go. And the guy says he's seeing a crazy place with volcanoes and gas pockets, very strange plants. It's volatile, like the stock market. You know, very different. And there seems to be a lot of vegetation while the other place didn't. It's also got very different kinds of storms. And right after that, they were out of time in their session. They only do these for a certain amount of time because this makes the people very tired. And that's it, sadly. Now, I'm going to get really lit, and I'm going to explain remote viewing in a way a 5-year-old could understand it. So remote viewing is basically intuition at its core. You know, intuition, and when I say that, I mean like you get lost at a farmer's market, your body just starts walking one direction, and you think and go, nah, it's probably the other way. And you go the other way, and it turns out you were right all along without even thinking about it. That is your intuition. Now, the way they use this intuition is they imagine what they're looking for. You know, they don't know what they're looking for. They have numbers attached to what they're looking for, and they imagine those numbers. Now, they'll play white noise, you know, like the shit people fall asleep to. And they'll have sudden drops in this white noise, maybe every 5, 10, 20, 30 seconds. I don't know how they do it, but you can read this file if you want. Just type in tutorial for remote viewing CIA, and this is a whole training manual. It's 80 pages long. But in these moments where the white noise drops, they just draw the first thing that comes to mind. It's quite literally that simple. So maybe they saw a circle, they draw a circle. They do it again, and then maybe there's a little face, you know, or one line, and then another line, and it turns into a smiley face. That is all remote viewing is, and for some reason it's very accurate. They're not doing some crazy psychic stuff. They're not getting injected with weird stuff at some CIA lab. I mean, it's quite literally just people's intuition, and some people are weirdly good at this. Now, I've even given this a try just because I wanted to give it a shot. My buddy wrote 10 two-digit numbers down in an envelope halfway across the state, and, you know, I came back like 2 hours later. It took me forever, and I'd drawn a picture of a dresser, you know, not even close, but I sent it to him, and I was like, man, I'm not very good at this stuff. He sends me back a picture of a dresser that is identical to the one that I drew, and that wigged me out, and I've never tried it again. Dude, I went on someone's podcast and they were asking me about remote viewing, and I was so nervous that I flipped the script and I was like, oh, my friend did it, because I didn't want to sound crazy, but I realized now that was kind of stupid. Sorry for doing that, Dylan. I lied to you. But the story was still true. I just flipped the roles of who did it because I really didn't want to sound like a crazy person, but there is something to this. I had never done that kind of stuff before. I was like 2 weeks into the gateway process. And I was figuring, I was like, dude, why not? Like, I'm doing one CIA meditation related to this. Why don't I just give it a shot? Weirdly accurate.